Today my guest is Sarah Davis, the Operations Coordinator and Director representing the second generation of Perth-based family business and well-known pool equipment firm Kreepy Krauly. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
We're going to discover how Kreepy Krauly got started and what it does to stay a leader in this competitive sector.
Excellent, thank you.
How did Kreepy Krauly get into business? You know, from recollection, your father, Terry, had an above-ground pool business. I just presume that was natural to get into the cleaning equipment business, but maybe there's more to it.
There is definitely more to it. So Kreepy Krauly started in South Africa. A gentleman named Ferdinand Chauvier, who is a hydraulics engineer. He created the first prototype of Kreepy Krauly, which is the flow valve that you see in the bottom of the current cleaner.
Yep.
That creates that lifting and propulsion kind of kinetic movement that the Kreepy Krauly has. The first prototype was made out of perspex, rubber and wood, which I bet you can imagine wasn't the best in the pool environment. He then took it to, I suppose, the first level of market, and it was out of vacuum formed plastic. He utilised one of his friends who was a South African pilot, went around the world trying to see if somebody could kind of assist him with, you know, developing it further. That's when he stumbled across my father, who was in above ground swimming pools, so I suppose there is that synergy.
Yeah.
And that's when Dad took on, you know, the role of the R&D of the Kreepy Krauly, and the first mass market Kreepy Krauly was made in Australia in 1976.
And he must have had a reasonable sized business for your South Africa connection to discover him, I presume.
Yes. Dad was very strong in the above ground swimming pools. I think it was just the case of, you know, he had the know-how, he was very enthusiastic about what he could do for the product, and for decades after, all R&D and manufacturing was done out of Australia, which I think is something that he was and still is very proud of.
Absolutely. But obviously in those days, places like Australia could afford pools.
Yeah.
And suddenly we had the wealth and the leisure time to want to have something to clean it automatically.
Yes.
Because having a pool was a bit of a painful experience, presumably.
Absolutely. And I mean, even now, pool owners do struggle with how much a pool needs attention, but I believe with, you know, the changes that we've kind of implemented, it does make pool ownership more enjoyable and less laboursome.
Yeah, more set and forget, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely, one of our jingles.
So what did your dad do through the business to really improve the technology from that sort of more primitive state that it started at?
So he did the obvious injection moulding. So vacuum formed plastic is fantastic in certain applications, but it's quite brittle, so that was the first change. He also made modifications to the steering, so Kreepy Krauly, instead of following the walls or following the hose, it actually moves around the pool in a crisscross motion, and the hose just moves out of the way of the cleaner. The hose is ultra flexible and also has a large internal bore with no restrictions along the way to ensure vacuum isn't lost. And then also we have automatic vacuum control, so there's no twisting and having to go in and check. It regulates the vacuum required for the cleaner. So as your filter gets dirtier, we still make sure that the cleaner has the sufficient vacuum required to continue its clean. So.
Gotcha.
Just making everything easier for the end user.
Totally. And was Kreepy Krauly kind of the first in the market, or were there other kinds of things like that at the time?
I believe Kreepy Krauly was the first, if not one of the first.
But your dad ended up owning the Kreepy Krauly technology.
The arrangement was that he owned the rights to Australia.
Yep.
For, you know, his part that he played, and the Chauvier family owned South Africa and the USA, and they ended up selling that probably 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, to Pentair. So now that family doesn't own it, but we still own it after 42 years. And
the technology that was sold into the US was using the Australian technology?
Yes.
Okay, so there was a technology sharing?
Yes, there was, and that was all a part of the arrangement. Nowadays, the Kreepy Krauly found in South Africa and the US is completely different to the one in Australia.
Gotcha.
You know, we obviously are very passionate about the sand that WA has, the heat that Queensland has. So we very much want to maintain performance in our unique environment, which is possibly tougher than other countries.
Now let's just get this clear. This is all done in Western Australia at the moment?
Yes.
Right, so how many people do you employ?
Around 15 people.
Okay.
We maintain a workforce all year round. That's how we can maintain quality. And, you know, obviously our office is just above our manufacturing facility and make sure that we're very involved.
Yeah, and you do all your testing there as well. You've got pools that
Yes, we do.
Yeah, okay.
So we've got a test pool in our facility, and then I think it's somewhat mandatory that you know, the Jackson family all has pools. It's important that, you know, we're testing in the pools that are the ones that are going out to market as well.
Yeah, and dare I ask, and if it's commercially sensitive, I get it, but how many do you make a year? Would it be thousands?
Absolutely thousands. I am constantly putting in orders for packaging and doing, you know, batch production runs of, you know, 10,000 units. So we're very comfortable.
And I presume it's seasonal. Is there a time where people tend to put in pools or replace all their equipment?
We actually have a bit of a joke that the grand final is the time that people kind of go, oh wow, we've got this beautiful body of water in the backyard, and you know, that's when our surge probably kind of hits.
Right.
But you know, all year round your pool needs to be maintained, but you know, it's whether or not you lift the pool blanket and have a little look underneath to see what's happening.
After a long winter.
Yeah.
Now, I think Kreepy Krauly used to do some export.
Yes, we did.
You don't do that anymore?
No, we have very much focused on the Australian market, but we are actually actively looking into going into, you know, Amazon for other countries like the USA, because you know, our products like silicon seal are naturally chemically resistant is, you know, something really unique. When we started doing that, they didn't even have the machinery to produce what we needed to produce, so we actually even made our own machines in-house. You know, there's a lot of things that we have that we're proud of, and we are looking to share it with the rest of the world.
And can you sell as Kreepy Krauly in other parts of the world?
No, we can't.
Right.
But that doesn't stop us sharing what we can do with the world.
Under a different name.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of imagining that if your equipment lasts a long time, that really you're in it when people have put in a new pool.
Yeah.
And then you've got quite a number of years before you may or may not see someone again.
Yeah.
Is there an aftermarket, and how big is the pool market in Australia? Is it as big as it was?
We provide spare parts for all of our cleaners that we've ever made. I mean, I've just had a gentleman probably about a month ago call up for a brand new Kreepy Krauly, and he gave me the original receipt to a 1980 Kreepy Krauly. We're proud of those moments. You know, he could actually rattle off, you know, the number of parts that he's had to replace over those 38 years, and they were minimal.
And what about the future? I mean, we do see more apartments.
Yep.
We see smaller backyards.
Yep.
I mean, do you see those changes? Do they affect you?
Not really. There's still pools in the ground. There's still pools going in. Pools that are out there still need to be cleaned. And I think people are wanting that hassle-free solution, and that is a Kreepy Krauly.
You're in a distinct category.
Yep.
So you're just producing pool cleaning equipment.
Yep.
But you're often competing against firms that are broader than that. They're selling pumps, and the pool cleaning equipment's sort of like an add-on to that, to them. What's your philosophy of how you go about competing in that market?
Quality, service and support.
And can I just interrupt there? I mean, that sounds like, you know, I mean, lots of people say that. So how do you deliver on that?
So quality, you know, it's not an add-on to us. This is something that we're very passionate about. You know, I have a pool in my backyard. I have 3 children, so it's important.
And what about the service side? I mean, you're obviously selling units through pool manufacturers.
Yeah.
You're selling through pool shops. How do you manage those, you know, the quality of service when it's sometimes in third-party hands?
Our basis for how we've been so successful has always been long-term focused and focusing on really good relationships. You know, we are always involved and we're always wanting to see what we can deliver to the pool shops. So we have an e-commerce facility where we pair every single sale with brick and mortar pool shops. That helps the pool shops because we're invested in their success, but it also means that our consumers are actually being paired with that local service and support while still being able to shop online at 2 a.m. in the morning.
It's not tempting to cut out the middleman and go direct?
No, because it's what we stand by. We stand by those relationships and working long term. If we wanted those quick wins, we wouldn't be in business and we wouldn't have been where we are.
Fair enough. How do you find the staff and the skills to do what you need to do here? And the equipment?
Yeah, well, it's always been tricky. I suppose, WA especially has had to deal with, the mining sector, and everyone has focused on mining over manufacturing. But again, our win-win and long-term focus goes into our internal kind of business philosophy, which is around, giving people opportunities, and our staff are very loyal and, give a lot back to us.
So they sort of become part of the family kind of thing?
Yeah, they'll probably laugh at that, but yes.
And succession.
Yes.
Right, now you and your brother have recently taken over the business over the last 5 years or so?
Yeah, probably 5-10 years.
And so was that an easy process or a difficult process?
Oh, look, with every family business, it's sometimes a little bit complex, but I suppose my parents' philosophy was always that we should be involved in the business. School holidays were always in the factory, whether or not it was pulling out boxes or looking in machines. So we very much had a good understanding of the business from the ground up. Mm-hmm. Andrew went into the business straight out of school, coupled with his university studies. I had opportunities, I suppose, outside of the business, kind of in retail. I was an engineer with Rio Tinto, and as the business grew, which it has over the last probably 5 years, hugely, I stepped back into the business to help out.
And I think there's some irony there, isn't there, that you're the engineer and you're kind of doing the marketing. Yes. And your brother, he studied marketing and he's ended up doing more of the back end, and managing the manufacturing process. Is that right?
The best description of Andrew is pedantically fussy when it comes to the technical side. Yep. And I have a love of, retail, sales and marketing. But I think our technical backgrounds have actually given us the ability to have a different look on things. When I redo an instruction manual, I obviously come with a technical background. I get quite involved in the training side and the retail side, and Andrew just loves getting in there and getting into the technical side and how the pull shops can best sell and service to customers.
No, fair enough. What does the new generation actually bring to the business?
I suppose it's just a new set of eyes. Age is obviously a benefit. We've got long-term careers planned in Kreepy, so we want to kind of be able to put our mark on it, but our mission in life is to protect the business and the brand and ensuring everything, our parents' legacy stays on. And
in the market outside, is it here comes the newcomer, they won't know, or is it, actually this business has younger hands, that means it's stable for a longer time, do you think?
Well, Andrew's been in the business like 20 years. The trade have always been well aware of, his presence. When I came on board, I've taken on a lot more of a public presence, mm-hmm. and I'm hoping that the trade find it a positive, because I'm in there and I'm showing them that the factory, the manufacturing facility is there to support them. I'm not hiding behind anyone else. We're quite lucky. We don't actually get a lot of negative feedback, but if there is that opportunity that we can improve, I try and get this very hands-on approach, which Andrew fully supports, for me to be able to improve.
And I guess probably the last question for me is, what are some of the hard and fast rules that maybe your father had in the business that you guys have stuck with? What are the I don't know if there's some mantras or whatever that you have, but that kind of thing.
It was quite funny. We had a moment where we had to really reflect on, what Dad has given us. And one of the biggest things was being proud of what you create. So, he always said that when you go into that pull shop, you should be able to be proud to stand by that product and know that that's going to someone else's, house. You have to be proud with the service quality that you provide people, the warranties that you provide. So at the end of the day, you can go home and go, I've done a great job, I've produced something amazing, and I stand by my product. So just be proud of what you do and what you create.
Sarah Davis, Kreepy Krauly, fantastic story, and I think a bit of a hidden one from my perspective. I don't think that many people really realise that you're a West Australian business, so I'm always happy to help share that bit of knowledge.
Thank you.
But a great Australian brand name, and I hope it carries forward for many, many years to come.
We hope so too. Thank you very much for having me, Mark.
Thank you.